Welcome, Professor Dr. Michael Süss. Thank you for taking part in the Embassy of Switzerland's series on innovating in times of crisis. You are the chairman of the board of directors at Oerlikon. I'm the ambassador of Switzerland to the United States of America. Let's talk about the challenging times we've been through and how these challenging times may also have propelled innovation in the way we're working and maybe the new technologies. How do we adapt to the new technologies? Maybe for our listeners, the general context, Oerlikon is a market leader in advanced materials, surface engineering, and polymer processing. Tell me about the technology industry Oerlikon is a leader in, both in Switzerland and in the US.
So to put it in a nutshell, we are more than 100 years old. We are more than several decades active in the US. And our two main businesses where we have a clear number one position is on one hand to coat everything which needs coating by metal or ceramic applications. So where we link on a molecular base the surface with the carrier materials. And on the other hand, we are building the machines for all polymer-based yarns for textile and non-textile applications. For example, in COVID now, we have more than 10 machines annually which are producing the materials for the masks, which was originally only one. So in that case, we took even benefit from. And we have 28 sites in the US in 17 states, 1,300 people. We take care of them, and we want to enlarge them.
Speaking of taking care of them, I mean, you are an industrial company, so there is no working from home for many of your people. How did you deal with the challenge of keeping your staff safe and sound, and at the same time, maybe even increasing your production, at least in some sectors?
Yeah, in some sectors we could increase them, especially on the man-made fiber section. I have to mention that on the surface solution, which is strongly linked with the high-tech industries. So either it's space, it's aero, it's automotive, it's machine building industry. All these industries are heavily affected. And they're heavily affected even on the innovation side, because in some areas we accelerate innovation, but in other areas the money still is kept back because of the insecurity of the future. So there's a balance in. What we're doing is we try to keep as much as possible from the people on the payroll. So either to ensure their social insurance, what they have. Unfortunately, there are countries like the US where you have not this methodology like in Switzerland or in Germany, or where you have this short time work where you get money partially from state for the employees and you put some money from your side on top of that. But to avoid to lose competence. So on one hand, to give these people on a personal base stability. On the other hand, for the companies itself, it's an issue if you lose a lot of high trained people. And when the time is over that you need them again, then you have to find them. We have seen that in Lehman crisis, where especially in the US, a lot of good people have left their companies, and then later on the companies didn't find them back. It took a time to accelerate again. That was in Europe easier, and more countries take that example and say how to balance this in the crisis to keep the employees on board. That you have structurally sometimes to adopt and to have to take people out. This cannot be avoided if you have heavy crises, but to keep as much on board as possible.
Well, that's definitely one of the main challenges. Can you still hear me?
I hear you perfectly.
We had an interruption. Fine. This is one of the challenges of technology. So you mentioned the challenge of keeping the workforce and keeping them for the long term because they are very specialized. Many industrial sectors have also suffered from major challenges in the supply chain due to, on one side, COVID, and on the other side, to measures taken by governments in various parts of the world to reshore, to reduce their dependency on foreign producers. How did you feel the let's say the challenge in the supply chain?
Due to the fact that we have a very good relation with our supply base, we could manage that almost perfectly. So we had no shortfalls on the supply base. We interacted very openly and very transparent with them about our demands, that they can adapt, or they could adapt on that. And as well on the COVID side, we didn't have too much cases, so we managed that in a pretty good way. And even on top of that, we have taken measures from behavior rules, but far beyond that, we have brought in the safe zone application, which is a company where we are invested in, a small startup, had this chip developed, which you're carrying, and then if you are too close, the chip knows with whom you've been together, and then you can track. If I would get corona, we can track whom I have met, and that gives me a chance to figure out the trail the virus has made through your company, to your building, to your factory. And meanwhile, it's a real business success, even because NFL has opened its game with 10,000 of these applications, and it was mentioned even by Kinexon Technology, which is a company we're invested in. So it works well, supply base and internally. The but is we do not know when it ends. When is the new normal over and we get a real normal?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the challenges. And the other challenge is, and if I come back to the supply chain management, COVID seems to have accelerated like isolationist tendencies of certain major economies, including in the United States. When we listen to what both parties ahead of the election of November 3rd are saying about reorganizing the worldwide supply chain, we can see problems emerging. This is not going away once we go back to the new normal in terms of COVID. Have you already taken steps to deal with the probable hardening of let's say, the trade relationships worldwide?
So I think that is, you put the finger in the most decisive question. Can we go on with a global economy as we have done until we had to face COVID? And I think there will be a change in behavior. And we have a platform on the Davos Economic Forum of the manufacturing people. And there's one rationale: more from the region for the region. So still to operate global businesses, but to become with your supply chains and with all your activities more regional, to give even more responsibility for decisions into the region. Because if you have a global business, one of my core elements for managers was to be in the region to see what's going on, where are the things moving to, and you cannot do that by not traveling. You cannot run it by a virtual setup. You can keep good relation by a setup as we have now, but you cannot develop relation. You cannot figure out new opportunities. You have to be there, and that will strengthen the regional engagement of companies. This is a price tag as well, because you have to do something more of the same, and you cannot operate it maybe that streamlined in a global, very slim, top organized organization. You have to be a little bit more with more footprint, which has goods and bads in that, because the efficiency may even to coordinate that, to have the right products or the same products in different regions, to avoid that you get too much differentiation in and to have to manage too much variation in your products. These are things which you have still to do by a more global view, but to reach out to the customers, to organize the supply changes to that, what you're doing, to localize even more R&D and more manufacturing, that's a strength where we have to use our global setup. We are a small company, mid-cap company, but we are truly global. We do our revenues, our activities around the globe in the different technologies with the process know-how we have.
You mentioned something that is really, really interesting in the framework of this series of interviews. Everyone is putting a brave face and saying, "Oh, we have realized how much we can do through the through teleconferences and Zoom and WebEx, and we have realized we were traveling too much. We can have the kind of social and professional contacts but you also seem to imply that there are certain types of contacts that will probably never be replaced by WebEx or by Zoom or by whatever kind of teleconference we're in.
I think what you can replace are sometimes short trips where managers are going somewhere to meet another one they know very well, to exchange some thoughts and views. This can be done smarter as it was maybe in the past. But in the end, business is trust. And to build trust and keep trust, you have to interact physically, personally. You have to sit together, to see the body language, not only from the other side, but even if there's a group of people. You have, if you're in a country, you have to smell the atmosphere. You have to get a feeling about which business opportunities are maybe picking up, which businesses is under pressure, where to sharpen and to orient your portfolio to. If there are companies which are doing things that nobody is requesting anymore, are you really giving the right answers to the questions a society does have? And all that you have to be present. Maybe our kids or grandkids growing up in a totally digital world, maybe they can do that different. But I still believe even in that days, the personal relation with people, the trust level you have, the engagement and the commitment to a society cannot be virtual. It has to be real, by real person, by real being there. And this we will not avoid. That's why I'm not buying into people and say everything will change and in the future we're only communicating by Skype and by Teams and by how the different systems are named. That would be a very poor society, not built on trust anymore.
You can imagine in my job how difficult it has been for diplomats. Diplomats are basically thriving on social interaction. And it's about, as you say, the body language, the moments you spend together, speaking about things that have nothing to do with business, speaking about history, culture, whatever. You create a kind of trust that will give you the opportunity just at the right time to grab your phone and call the person. The person will trust you because he or she really knows you. And maybe with augmented reality and virtual reality, we will have the feeling that we are sitting in the same room and we will see the body language, and what we are doing right now will appear like something out of the Stone Age in a few years from now. But I would personally concur that it's not going to replace the experience. Now, for you, trying to be, the Swiss are always trying to look forward and to be optimistic. What is the main positive lesson that you would have drawn from this crisis? The resilience of your company, the behavior of your workforce. What's the main positive lesson?
I would say crisis always gets the best out of the people, because they have, again, to, let's say, take all the comfort zone away, and it's now time to act and to fight and to get through that, to stay together. You can immediately figure out, are people ready to work in a team even hard, to go the extra mile? What's about the moral you have? And I've seen extremely positive signs here in the company. You start reinventing yourself. And I think the even most important thing is there will be a time after the crisis, which is before the crisis. Now we have COVID now. We had Lehman, we had SARS, we had September 11. Sometimes it was more local with a global effect. COVID for sure is a real global question, but there will be the next one. There is a new virus. There is something new coming. It was not that we had a total perfect world before COVID. That we had all these tensions in trade, we had all these questions of more nationalistic behavior. I think especially Swiss people and Swiss companies have a good attitude to maneuver within that, to give a good example shown over a couple of 100 years, how even different languages and regions can live in one country very close together. And this is a strong signal again that we say we have to come back to that what real counts, to our real values, and to give a little bit away all that what was, let's say, covering us, covering by comfort, by okay, it's all working, don't be too active anymore, it will work. Now we have a chance to change things which have developed in the wrong direction. We have a chance to refocus on the real values again, and the people show that. The people say, okay, that's a crisis, but we can manage that. We will find a way through. We will, yeah, and then we describe a little better world again, and there's the next crisis, and we prepare already for that, and not in a way that, okay, it's over, now let's go back. That's what I mean, not the old normal and not the new normal. Simply a further development.
Professor Dr. Süss, thank you so much, because this is really a fitting end and an optimistic one. I just can't wait to have you back to the residence so we can go on with the conversation. Enjoy your time in Europe. Come back to the US very soon, and good luck to Oerlikon in the challenging months ahead.
Mr. Ambassador, thanks so much for that invitation, for the call. And thanks so much for what you're contributing to us as a company, but as well for us as a country. I think it's of essence that Switzerland and US keeps and maintains a very strong relation, which was in the past, in the present, and will be in the future. So thanks for all we can contribute to that. Bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.